Do you love edible green? Do you enjoy watching horror movies? Are you down to do both? You should definitely hit subscribe then. Hi, my name's Alissa, and welcome to my channel, High Reviews. Quick origin story. I'm a huge film buff. I have been since I was a child, and in particular, I've been exposed to the horror genre before I even took my first steps. So, to say the least, it has had a lasting, bloody ripple effect. Not only do I love the adrenaline rush from clever scares, I appreciate the art of filmmaking and all its details. I'm an indie filmmaker as well, so I can definitely appreciate everything behind the camera, including how it's made into the picture that it is. And I get really into it, so that's going to be part of this. Also, I'm a fierce advocate for THC. I think for both recreational and medical use, it should be available to anybody that needs it or wants it. So, because of that, I've decided that I wanted to combine the best of both worlds while reviewing the experience in real time. Let me explain what I mean. One edible, one woman, one scary movie. So kicking off my first episode here, pilot if you will, those of you who know what that is. So my pilot episode is going to be about the movie Exit 8. Now, I have never heard of the director, Genki Kawamura. I am so sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, but Genki Kawamura. I am not familiar with his work at all. This will be the first time that I've watched anything that he's directed or created. I think he's a film producer as well. All I did was I saw the still frame of the cover for this movie, and I immediately wanted to watch it. I am also a huge fan of Japanese horror in general, because the Japanese take horror to a different level in their world that I find very scary and unsettling and just unnerving, where it leaves me thinking about things for a long while afterwards. I also watch a lot of anime. I shouldn't say a lot. I'm very selective. There are certain shows that I watch, like Death Note, for example, and also Full Metal Alchemist is a good one, but Attack on Titan is also another great one. So you can kind of see a little bit of a theme here. But my point is, I really appreciate the Japanese use of horror and how they approach it. So that's exciting. And then when I just read the one log line about it being about a man trying to find an exit out of a subway tunnel where he's trapped, essentially. That's all I needed to know, and I immediately got the creeps. So I've got to understand the story. I have to see it. I need to know if it's scary, period. I'm also going to try Granny S'mores Pretzels, THC. So part of the experience, as I said, I was combining things here. I'm going to take these and then watch Exit 8. And I'll give a review on both the next day and tell you how it goes. The combination of what I think about the movie, if it's scary, kind of go into a little bit of a review in more depth and without trying to give you spoilers, of course, because I don't really do spoilers. I hate when that happens, so that's not going to happen on this channel. Be aware of that. Hope you appreciate it. I do, and people don't, and that's why I don't like trailers that expose everything already. You just know the movie and all the trailers. But I'm also going to give a review on this and every product that I do with every episode that I do. I will talk about how it affects me, the taste, the quality, and whether or not it's going to get a high review. It's time for high reviews. Oh. As you all recall, I was very excited to review Exit 8 because it's a Japanese horror film, and that always makes me giddy. I was wanting to know how scary this would be. And it didn't go the way that I thought it would. I'm not going to give any spoilers, as I mentioned. I like to go in blind as I can, except maybe a log line. So like I said before, I had just one single frame out of the movie that was very simple, didn't reveal anything, and that made it creepy enough I wanted to watch it. But also the log line of a man getting trapped in a subway tunnel and trying to find the way out. He's looking for Exit 8. That's it. That's all I needed. I didn't need anything else. So for Exit 8, what I found really interesting, I had no idea, was that it originally was a video game, and this is an adaptation off the video game. So that's cool to start with. The fact that that's even a game, and I haven't heard of it. I am a gamer, huge gamer as well. Very selective, also in this world too, but I definitely enjoy horror games depending on what it is. So for example, Resident Evil is one of my favorite ones, and film adaptations of video games I think can be kind of like adaptations from books to film. However, because video games are so visual, you need those iconic things in there in order to make the gamers happy. So I'd be very interested to all of you out there who love the game Exit 8 and to comment on this if you enjoyed the movie, if you've seen it, and how well they did in adapting it to the film. If they did a good job, you were happy, what you liked about it. So for example, Resident Evil, the first movie, I loved it. As a gamer and just horror, and I am also a huge fan of Mila Jovovich, I thought that movie is the best one out of them all. I have seen all of them, and, you know, they kind of get more ridiculous as it goes on, but it's like, we can bend the rules because this was based on a game anyways. But the first movie I loved so much because it definitely went into that whole world of trying to make the gamers happy, and I think they did. I at least felt very happy about it, and the acting was good, the horror element was there, the score was amazing. I could go on and on about that, but that's not the movie we're talking about today. That was just an example. So for Exit 8, never played the game, so I don't know much about it. Again, would love your comments for those of you out there who've played the game and seen the movie to shed some light on how well they did. One of my favorite specific horror Japanese creations is the Yamishibai ghost stories. If anyone is aware of those, I feel like that's a little more underground for some people, but when I discovered those, I ate them up. I have tried to watch every single episode. I know I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of them, and they're very short ghost stories, only a few minutes or so. And what I enjoy about them is that it's such a very simple story that draws you in. There's a similar feeling there of this unsettled feeling that you know something's weird, but it's so simple and very, they do very minor changes to things for the viewer to notice. And it's not an overt horror scare or anything like that. It's a story that builds, and there's minimal dialogue in those as well. And it's just like a very simple concept and building the tension. They're very good at that. And it's just such a simple, sketched story. That's kind of what I thought of a little bit when I was watching Exit 8, is it's a very slow creep. And it continues that way. And there are moments where things happen, but you're just being pulled along the whole time. And for me, I definitely was very engaged. As you'll see from my reactions that I share and show here, I had diverse reactions. There were moments that I was really trying to figure things out. And that's the other thing, is you're in it, for those of you that get really invested in this and enjoy a psychological horror like this. That's what I would classify this as, even though there's some horror, like straight up horror elements. But I would classify this as a psychological horror because it's all in your mind, where you feel like you're in their mind too, and you're also along like, okay, what is the answer to this? But you're also looking at the environment, trying to figure it out. You're there with them, almost like you want to help this character. And I love it when you get pulled into a story like that, and that's the effect. I think they did a great job. I think the story is very simple, very effective. I love that the end of this, when you get to the very end and then the credits start rolling, you're left with so many possibilities of what this could be, barring the gaming background that those of you are aware of, because I am not. So I'm looking at this as a standalone with the film, that I don't know what the answer is. And there could be a variety of answers. I love open-ended films like this, where you can sit here and hypothesize and think of all sorts of different outcomes that this could actually be, or answers or conclusions as to what this is, why this happened, where is it coming from, where does it go from here. Twig! One moment. Come on. Come on. Okay, I thought I could have our kitty out here, but unfortunately, when I talk, especially at length, she likes to get into things and play and scratch and cause trouble because she wants my attention. So going forward, we're going to put Kitty in the bedroom. She's secure now with a toy. So, okay, in general, a huge part of what is included in the storytelling and character building is that the characters experience growth, that they are, there are mistakes leading to grave errors at times, or they're faced with a conflict or a challenge, and that there is a huge focus on growth and understanding oneself. And that absolutely was captured in Exit 8. It for sure was, where you can see it as it develops with the character, as you see what challenges they're faced with, or questions or choices. And that absolutely was a part of this. I even got emotional at one point because I was invested with the character's storyline, and what, at a particular point where he was reflecting in a very emotionally impactful part of the film. And I felt it too. So I appreciated that aspect of it, definitely recognized it. And I feel like with Japanese film, that remained a constant for me, that I've noticed that with every film work, whether it be a TV show, anime, or a movie that I have seen that was created by a Japanese director or team. And even in video games too, there's a lot of that with certain games like Final Fantasy, for example, Final Fantasy VII, for those of you who are really big on that one. There's so much story, there's so much growth, there's so much emotion in that game. And I feel like it's reflected in films too. The Japanese really, I think it seems to me that the Japanese really appreciate and care about character growth, character understanding, looking inward, reflecting, and trying to be better, and also to be better for others, to do the right thing. And that was definitely depicted in this movie, and I felt like I very much recognized it and enjoyed reflecting on that as well. So as far as like the shot choices or the way that shots were approached, there wasn't anything like incredibly artistic to me that stood out like that. And I don't think that mattered, because that's not why we're here. There are points in which the camera is following him as you're turning corners, or it's a POV, you're turning a corner. And no matter what perspective that took, it had a different effect in the way that you are on the edge of your seat waiting to see what's around that corner every single time, no matter how many times or what happened prior or what you anticipate. You are on the edge waiting to see, okay, what are we actually going to see? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? Where are we going to go? I loved that because I was engaged the entire time. I also thought the actor did a great job of, with barely any kind of dialogue, holding that space where you're worried for him and you want him to get out. What I found very interesting was that it was mostly white was used, and how unsettling and off the white color everywhere felt. How stark and bright it was, and yet it felt very weird. Kind of reminded me a little bit of The Substance and how white was used, but that's still very different. But in this film, because of the subway and the environment, the white, I found it very, like it left me on edge a little bit because it was just too bright. And then there were other uses of colors, but that was kind of the main component. Another aspect of the film that I thought was executed very well, and it makes you think about life in general, or even could relate specifically, is that the use of the mundane and endless cycle of dailiness or just living life, where in this environment you really feel that, where it's just like, here we go through the same thing. Every day is exactly the same, and how exhausting that can be. But especially in a situation like this, obviously you feel that exhaustion and that almost like at your wit's end when you're not getting anywhere, as if there's no traction to continue. And that's kind of part of the challenge, is like whether or not you'll give up. And I think in everydayness, everyday life, that there is this thing that we all experience with work or just daily tasks or responsibilities that we have, that it gets very mundane, very exhausting. So something as simple as this, being in a subway tunnel, needing to commute to work or go wherever, and it's just this monotonous cycle that you go through. And that when you're trapped in that, how claustrophobic and challenging that can feel. I think that was executed very well for this type of story and in this environment and the way it was built. I really appreciated as well with the set construction. I don't know if that was an actual location or not, but as far as like if it was built on a set, it looks like a real subway, so I would like to believe it is. And it's one location. It's one location the entire time, except for one other scene. But that they're using that, and that they were able to create this same pathway, or a few different same pathways. I question, like, the hallways, because again, like, doing indie filmmaking, I have definitely constructed sets before and then also used real environments, but then you cheat with construction to some degree. But in this case, it did look like a real subway tunnel, real, pathway. But if they did create it, props to them, because it looked amazing. But my point is, the same section that was being used for this part of, for the, the trying to get out section, how that even though I saw it over and over and over and over again, that I was still hopeful, or still really looking, and also that it added to that, like, oh my God, I can feel the character getting really tired, getting really over this, not wanting to continue, and so on and so forth, or whatever they were experiencing, because there were, more than one character, but the main one, that he still keeps going, and that you are seeing the same environment, but you're not getting tired of that. You're not getting bored, even though it's one place. And I think that's props to the filmmakers and the director and how it was approached in being able to keep that fresh for you and keep you engaged while you're watching, even though it's the same thing. I was impressed by that. So it's got a great story, keeps you engaged, great acting. I feel like all the characters served very well, and the actors did a great job. And then as far as the scare factor, if you like psychological horror and really getting in here where you're wondering about things and it'll keep you thinking for days, if you're looking for something like that, Exit 8 is definitely one to watch. All right, now to the review portion of the THC edible that I had, the Granny's Pretzels. I'm usually like, I can have a milder amount or even cut a dose in half and I'm good. So what I decided to do with this was I doubled the dose. So I had 10 milligrams, serving size 2 then, because it's 5 pretzels, 5 milligrams per serving. I had 2 of those 10 milligrams. And so what I'll say right off the bat, delicious pretzels. I had the s'mores flavor, and while it didn't taste like s'mores to me, which is fine, very like cinnamony and sugary, but like not overly so. They were delicious. The texture was nice, buttery, good pretzel taste. And I'm keto, actually. I am on the keto diet for a health reason. And I was so happy that such a low carb for a serving that I could actually eat these. So, but in any case, buttery, great texture, and could not taste the weed in there, could not taste that like skunky kind of taste or smell, was not present at all, tasted delicious. So, loved eating them. I will say that for the high effect or feeling an effect or what the effect would be, I didn't really feel much, even with that double dose for myself. I noticed like when I was watching the movie and everything, I didn't really feel too much of a shift or an effect from it. I think at one point I did feel a little something briefly where it was like I could kind of feel it kicking in for a little short window where I felt maybe a little sleepy or just slightly more relaxed. And that could have been evident when I was watching, you know, if you see that. But a little sleepy, a little bit more relaxed. Otherwise, that kind of dissipated pretty quickly, and it was just, I felt pretty normal. So I actually didn't feel too much of a high or effect from the pretzels themselves or the dosage. So overall, my review would be, if you're looking for a delicious THC snack, this would be a good go-to, especially if you're not wanting something that's hard-hitting. All right, y'all, that concludes my high reviews here for Exit 8 and Granny's Pretzels. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I definitely want to continue doing this. I enjoyed this very much. This is something that I really love and get really into, as I've mentioned before. So what I would love from you guys, of course, hit subscribe, like the video, what have you, because I'm definitely going to be putting out more of these. And what I would also like from you is any horror film recommendations for me to watch. I will definitely look for those in the comments, and also edible recommendations. I will look for those in the comments as well. Even pairings together. You could even mention the movie and the edible to go together. So like this video, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time for more high reviews.